Good afternoon, Phil here. Today we're working on the 302, the cheap 302 that turned out to be not so cheap. As you remember in the last video I did on this one, I lost a bunch of footage on getting this one set up, filing the piston rings, getting all that set up, and plastic gauging the bearings on the bottom end. Doing ARP studs and hardware down there, but this is where we are. And if you see, whoa, I'm zooming out. There we go. Whoa, I'm testing out a new thing here, and I think I'm just goofing it up. Let me screw this back out. There we go. That's better. So I measured for push rods. I went with, since I went with aluminum heads, instead of doing the ones that came on it, I went with Trick Flow. These are 7-inch. That's what I figured out I needed when I used my gauge. I'm going with Summit roller rockers. That's the ones that I'm going with. So 1.6 3/8 stud Summit roller rockers, as you can see. Woo! Woo! This thing is all over the place. So those are the roller rockers I'm putting in. I did stainless steel valves. I did the double, I don't know if you can see inside there or not, but they're double springed ARP hardware to bolt the heads on with. And then I went with Edelbrock push rod holders, whatever you want to call that. My mind's escaping to me. It's been kind of a crazy day. And then I also got our electric water pump put on, new comp timing set inside. I did a new balancer on the front. For this particular one, it is it's the older style, so 50 ounce is what I have for a balancer and my torque converter plate. So that's what I've got there. We've got a new oil pan, new oil pump pickup. What else do we have on here that's... I did a comp cam. I wonder if I still have the box for that. I did a comp cam in it, and then the lifters to match. Just standard hydraulic lifters. I don't think I have the box for that anymore. I think I threw that out. So many projects. No, I think I threw it out, but I'll post that in the description of the video when I get to that point. But that's where I'm at. So I'm just going ahead and getting all my lash adjusted, getting these all tightened down, and then I'll show you what that looks like when I'm done. Alright, it's been a couple of days, but I've got our rockers all put together. Flipped around. I got all the rockers on. I've got them lashed to 20 thou. I also got the oil filter on, and I primed everything, so you can see up there in the heads, got oil running through everything. So that's good. The next thing I'm going to do is get our intake on. So I've already got the gaskets on. I've already put some gasket sealer. I started getting that squeezed out on both ends. So I can get that set up. And then here is our intake. This is a cheap one that I bought on Amazon. 4-barrel. I'm actually going to convert it to a 2-barrel because that's what I bought for a cheap carb. So here's our cheap 2-barrel carb. And then I got this spacer plate So at some point, if I want to go to a 4-barrel carb, at least I can. So that's the next thing I'm going to do, is go ahead and get that intake put on, and then I'll come back and show you what that looks like. The other thing I want to get done tonight is get the covers on both sides so we can see what that looks like. And then I may even stab in the distributor so I can see what that looks like. Get our plugs put in, and I do have plugs and wires, so we could put those on. I don't have any manifolds yet for the exhaust, so that's something I'm gonna have to look for. I may just wait on that until I know exactly what I'm going to put this engine into, or I have a couple of other ideas that I may do for this one. So I'm going to go ahead and get that intake on, get the covers on, and then I'll show you what it looks like. Alright, got the intake on. I just kind of snugged down the bolts on here, and you know, a round pattern and whatnot. I'll snug those down as soon as the gasket maker kind of sets up a little bit. These cheap intakes do not seat very well, is what I'm finding out. So it's going to take several rounds of torquing to get those in shape. So next thing I'm going to do, now that I've got that on, is go ahead and put our valve covers on, and we'll go from there. Alright, got the valve covers on. These I believe I got from eBay for like 50 bucks. They're, you know, they're like a polished aluminum. They fit pretty well. They're not warped. I mean, the welds are, you know, not that great, but for what we're doing here, not bad. Comes with the rubber grommets, so I'll have to get a breather for back there, and a breather or something, I assume, for the front of that. But so there's that part. Next, I think I'll stab in that, I'll find my top dead center on cylinder number 1, and then I'll get our HEI distributor put in. Well, I ran into a problem with the distributor and my cheap intake. So this shoulder, which needs to be down here, is rubbing on the intake. So I'm going to have to grind or clearance this out so that my distributor fits in its place. So that's fun. So I'm going to go ahead and get that done, and then hopefully we can get this distributor. I thought that I had ordered an HEI for this, but I didn't, so it's got a coil. It did come with plugs, but I did buy some plugs already, some Ford Racing plugs and some Autolite plugs, spark plugs, but whatever. Yeah, that's kind of disappointing. I was kind of hoping I could just stab that thing in there, but it is what it is. Alright, I got that all clearanced. You can kind of see back there. I had to do a lot of burr bit work to get that down in there, but it's down in there now. This is a pretty cheap distributor. I don't know if I like it, but we're going to run with it for now. I'm going to go ahead and put the spark plugs in, do another round of tightening on the intake, and we're going to go from there. Alright, I got the carburetor on with the spacer. Got the spark plugs in. I'm not going to put the wires on yet. I still have some plugs and things like that I need to put in. I still need to final torque the intake. I need to get a thermostat and housing for that yet. Alternator, power steering pump. I still need to get all of that yet. I don't have that yet, so I've got to purchase those. I also need to get a starter and decide if I'm going to go with an automatic or manual transmission. I do see that it's got the pilot bearing in there, so this one had a manual transmission on it. So I might see if I've got something that I can do with that. But that's where we're going to leave it for today on this build series. This is the not so cheap 302 build. Yes, there's some cheap parts on it, but we did the right things in the right spots with ARP and the proper springs and the cam and the bearings and some new parts. I could have reused the old stuff, but I think it was just I think this engine looks pretty cool. I mean, it looks good. Now, if it runs and performs, no, that's another thing. Like they say, chrome don't get you home. But, hey, it was cheap, so we're going to run with it. But that's all we're going to do for today. Join us next time, wherein I get all the rest of the accessories, and we'll get the rest of this thing and finish off this build.